Bombas, we make socks, underwear, and T-shirts that feel good and do good. They feel good because they're designed with the softest materials and comfort innovations. They do good because for every item you purchase, we donate another item to someone who needs it. So far, we at Bombas have donated over 75 million items, and your purchases add to that impact. Go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/ACAST and use code ACAST at checkout.
Hey, sweetie, what do you think of our new car from Carvana?
Think it can handle our busy family?
Well, we have 7 days to see. First, we can take the scenic route to the beach and stargaze through the moonroof. We'll see if your drums fit in the trunk. Then we can pick up Mommy's friends and check out that legroom. And we should really visit Grandma. She's getting up there.
That's like a whole lifetime in 7 days.
And like one busy family.
With our 7-day money-back guarantee, you can confidently shop for cars 100% online. Visit Carvana.com for all terms and conditions. We'll drive you happy at Carvana.
Calm down, Mike's on.
Oh no, do we stop talking?
Mike's on.
The hot.
Oh, that was a close one.
We'd be cancelled forever for that. I might be dead.
Hello, EggChasers. It's the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself or the game too seriously. We take it very seriously that you didn't hear the conversation we were just having. We're back in the rugby dungeon at a bar. That would be a great conversation. Let's be honest. So we hope we see you at a bar sometime soon. Yeah, we're in the rugby dungeon here again. Whilst the rest of the rugby universe, in England at least, takes a summer break, we're still grafting. And we've all avoided saying those words, it's too hot, but no, I can't say, that rain's good today.
It is good, it is.
Oh, doesn't it feel good?
Take about 5 degrees off the temperature.
Did you get woken up last night by that giant storm?
No, I was up anyway. I was watching the end of Star Trek Picard. So, it's my Saturday night treat.
Wonderful. Well, we've got lots to talk about on this podcast. Just a reminder that you can support us at patreon.com/EggChasers, where there is extra content, extra spicy content sometimes as well.
We've got another Patreon podcast to put up, which I'm trying to put up, but Patreon seems to be broken. What's that?
I will. I'll have a look, see what I can do to get that up. But yeah, you can support us there. Patreon.com/EggChasers. And email us, contact@eggchasers@gmail.com. There's a bunch of good emails again, which I'll get through. So let's just rattle through. There's a lot of stuff going off the pitch. There's World Cup preliminary squads being announced. There are player movements. There are competition structures to discuss. There's other odds and sods. But let's begin with, well, a final which delivered on all of the hype we gave it, on all of the promise, and just was another bit of evidence that the future is French.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Me and Phil watched this in my living room on an iPad on a French stream with French commentary.
Yeah, and some weird French half-time.
Yeah. They played
stuff going on.
What was it like? French country file at half time.
Yes,
something very bizarre. To the point that we thought, have we changed channel?
Yeah, I'm sure it should have started again.
Well, what's a crossover between people that want to watch Toulouse, La Rochelle, but also country file at half time? Although
in the UK, in France, probably enormous.
Yeah,
in the UK, not so much.
I wonder, was it on multiple broadcasters in France then? Because there must have been like a Canal Plus as well as it was TV5. It was on.
But thinking about it sincerely, if you give me a chance to watch like Michaela Strachan on Country File or Gareth Thomas at half time, which one would you genuinely choose?
So, you make a good point.
I do, don't I? I do. Give me the Ducks.
Yeah.
But it was a hell of a game. It was nervy at times from both teams. There were times where there's some big mistakes from both teams, I think. But the stardust across it, and any game that finishes in that manner, is. It really was, because not only the final try, which was spectacular from Ntamak, who I think we'll talk about a bit more later, but It was the fact that it was so close, and it was one team scores, go in the lead. They look like they're going to win. They've just got to hold out. Then Toulouse come back. Then La Rochelle go in lead, and then Toulouse come back. The way that it flipped for the last 20 minutes.
It was a game of learning on the fly. Because you saw Toulouse come out, and they were very strong. But I would say for a good 60 minutes of that game, La Rochelle were completely dominant. Completely dominant.
Well, if you take out the first try, like the Choco Barres try and the Intermac try, which were both
missed tackles.
Yeah, missed tackle, bit of magic, a lot of pace in both counts, but an error on Dante, missed tackles on Intermac, then it's a 2-score win for La Rochelle.
By the way, I know he's got a reputation as a big centre because he is big, right? But like, he is so powerful. The way he manhandles people, he just has a presence about him. I think the guy is absolutely awesome. He is, I guess, he's what Bastro should have been in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's a very good point. If Bastro was conditioned,
but he's also got an attitude about him as well. He's always at the forefront of stuff.
Yeah.
Just ploughing through men. It's great.
Gets in the mix.
Richard Trepant, or I hope I'm saying your name right. Anyway, Richard, thank you for your email.
Hi, Richard.
Contact eggchasers@gmail.com. Just the subject title is Jack Willis is good at rugby.
Oh, please continue, because I've got thoughts.
He says, fellas, love the pod, blah, etc. Watching the top 14 final in the Pyrenees with a chilled pastis at altitude, though not a rooftop bar. That's fine, he's already at altitude.
It's about relative altitude, but please continue.
And he said, and the French commentators are going mad for Jacques Willis. Jacques Willis. Testament to the quality of the man, joining a European powerhouse midway through the season and getting a starting jersey for the final. I'm torn because I want to see him in an England jersey, but I also want him to see him competing for big trophies and earning a wedge in Toulouse. Borthwick's comments this week make one of those scenarios impossible. So presumably Borthwick has said that...
He said, I forget the actual phrasing, but it was he wants all the England players playing in England. But
which is different from saying they can't play for England if they're not in England.
Yeah.
Well, stop bankrupting the clubs, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. The way I read it was, I understand that he wants them there because he gets access to them for the full 7 weeks and a month before, but there is a big trade-off there that you're going to not be able to select some stars because people will choose for more money.
But then, do you remember the conversation that you and I had last night? We were watching DuPont play, and we were like, how refreshing. But every time you turn on the TV to watch Toulouse, DuPont plays. It's not like Sexton. It's not like...
And Francie plays almost every minute. Because even when they bring on a scrum half, he moves to 10.
Yeah.
And everyone shifts out one.
Yeah. But by the way, DuPont will not be playing in the Six Nations 2024.
Oh, really?
Because he's going to be preparing to play in the Olympics.
Oh, so he's going to play sevens?
Wow.
Crikey.
Wow.
Right. Wow, that is a big... Well, if you're going to lose him, you may as well lose him after he's a World Cup champion.
Well, it's in France as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it is. That makes a lot of sense. Well, why not?
That's pretty cool.
So,
it's very cool for rugby.
Yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, so the idea that Willis is more valuable to England because they get more access to him, yeah, that's great. But I think France is starting to prove a point now, which is steel sharpens steel. If you have the deepest playing pool, the best way to manage them is just throw them in the meat grinder over and over again and trust the depth in that playing pool to produce you a good 15. And I understand why Ireland do it. I understand why New Zealand do it, because their playing resources might not be as strong as, say, France's or England's. I don't understand why England are looking at like a central contracting system, or... I mean, they haven't said that, but I don't know why they would go for that when they've got even deeper playing pool.
Well, they don't have an even deeper playing pool than France.
Yeah, they do by registered players.
No, they
check
don't.
out registered players.
No, they don't.
Oh, yeah. But registered players is very different to... If someone's playing level 10... If the base of the pyramid is enormous, so registered players would count everyone. If it's registered male players, it would count everyone who is signed up to a club, whether they're playing fourth team level 10 or anything above.
France have got 30 full professional teams, and I think even their third division is professional now. So, so they might even have 44 professional teams or 46 professional sides.
As the Russian Air Force say, quantity has a quality all of its own, and. You know, it's something. I mean, we know. I'm not going to revisit the England chat again, but there must be something fundamentally wrong with England if they've got all of that, all those people playing the game, no matter where they are in in the pyramid and not converting that into top-level talent.
Well, yeah, we've talked about that many times. That's coaching. That's
But, I mean,
that's,
if you've got
that's
the
lack
raw
of rugby in
numbers-
schools.
Well, the interesting thing would be how many players kids.
Yeah.
Because the metric, how many play below 18? Because that's what you want. Because if you're above 18, you never play above 10th tier, 4th grade, you're entirely irrelevant.
Yeah.
But if you've got the biggest funnel below 18, that's what you want.
which England don't. No.
Do they not, though?
No.
I know South Africa have got an enormous...
It's very localised in England, isn't it? I mean, France is to a degree, but it's much more spread.
I don't think they play rugby in school in France.
Well, no, what they do in France on Wednesdays, schools close.
Do they?
At lunchtime?
Oh, for sports day.
And then local clubs take, for all sorts of sports, have little minibuses which go and pick kids up and take them to their club. So that's how a lot of kids get introduced to rugby.
Oh, I had no idea.
And that's every Wednesday.
Well, whatever it is, it's working for them. And I think that is the best way for them to operate. Is, if someone goes down, fine. So
and they have municipal support to develop stadiums for their local team. There's that local cultural identity which is pushed through the rugby. They also have clubs like Claremont have academies in the Pacific Islands and in South Africa. So they're farming and investing to get people back. So they're going and nicking other people's resources too.
Back to Jack Willis. I mean, England's resources at 7 are huge.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need Jack Willis in England to make sure he's good. If he is killing it over in France, which he is, by the way, I didn't think he had a great game, but if he's over there in France doing well, he should be considered for England.
I thought he was one of the best players.
And I did think at the start.
So it's interesting because you said to me as I walked in, because I missed the first 25 minutes or so, you said Jack Willis is having a tough game.
Yeah, he knocked on.
But I didn't see, from what I saw, I didn't see anything that he did wrong. I can't recall a single thing that he did wrong.
Can you recall seeing him much?
He had some good carries.
I saw him. He made a lot of tackles, and he was always in or around the ruck, both offensively and defensively. That kind of Richard Hill role. He's got, from what I've read, he's got several very positive write-ups.
Oh, there we go. Well, I thought in the first 5 minutes, he knocks on, he gives away a penalty, and he didn't look that efficient around the breakdown for the jackal.
Who was the other flanker for Toulouse again? Because Jalonche is injured.
Cross.
Yeah, so he probably wouldn't have been starting if Jalonche is fit.
Yeah, Jalonche is absolutely world class.
Maybe. I think he's a young lad at the number 8.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Ruma, yeah, would have. Yeah. You'd
have one of those three kind of
8.
6.5s maybe, or
6.75s.
Yeah, something like that. 6.78s.
Yeah.
Just on the players. Now this is from Wikipedia, so take it with a pinch of salt. In teen males, which is exactly the point that I was just making, which is the biggest funnel to potentially translate into the deepest playing pool. According to Wikipedia, England has 3 times more teen males than any other country in the world.
I thought so.
So 3 times more than South Africa, 10 times more than Ireland and France, and 15 times more than New Zealand, Japan, Australia, Italy, Scotland, Wales.
I thought I was on something there.
What I would say is, I would take that with... So, I think there'll be 2 things happening there. One, RFU will be... They are, as we all well know, they are desperate to show that it's a growing sport, whether it is a growing sport or not.
How many of those play touch?
And how many of those have played once between the ages of 13 and 18, or 13 and 19?
Exactly.
And when you look at the South Africa, 200,000 men in South Africa, I have no doubt they have... The average playing time in their teens of South African will be 6 years out of the 8, and they'll play 20 games a season. Same with New Zealand, who is 1/15.
There can be lies, damn lies, and statistics. There might be a lot of people. I imagine you might tick the right. You can imagine the RFU counting people if they have one training session in one term at school.
If you just half that number, so if they're...
Well, if you half it, they're still the biggest in the world.
Yeah.
So you have to, even if you divide it by 3, they are just the biggest in the world.
Just out of interest, what more evidence do we need to level at the RFU.
Now that's probably the most important point of it. Like something here, if that is true, that they've got 15 times more people in that funnel, more than New Zealand, they are monumentally bad.
True here, which is the RFU are lying to us, in which case they all need to go, or the RFU are horribly incompetent.
So incompetent. You should just burn the whole thing down.
Yeah, for the longest time now, Mark Evans disagrees with me, which is never a good sign. But I am of the opinion that we burn the whole thing down. We just burn the whole thing down and we start again. The women can keep their own union because they're the most attractive investment in all of sport, so they can keep all of their money and they'll be rich. And we'll just take the men's game and, hopefully build it into something worthwhile. I mean, how's that bad thing?
That is absolutely nuts,
isn't it?
Those figures just can't stack up without England.
Equally,
being totally incompetent.
there is a differentiation you have to make, and that is that if you look if you bird's eye view it, England are one of the most successful rugby teams on earth.
They should be with those numbers.
Well, yeah, but they are. They are. They're the only Northern Hemisphere team to have won the World Cup. They're one of only 4 nations to have won the World Cup. They've been to World Cup finals multiple times when they haven't won. They are one of the most successful nations on earth. It is a particularly poor time for the rugby generally in England. The participation is plummeting. The clubs are going to the wall, but that's financial mismanagement. That is not. It's got nothing to do with the national team. And they may well do quite well and get to another World Cup final. We don't know. So I think you have to take it all with a little bit of a pinch of salt when you're making judgments. It does feel pretty dire at the minute, but then at the same time, I think it's important to recognise there are lots of positive rugby stories at the minute. What's happening in the Pacific Islands? You mentioned Mark Evans, what he's overseeing. With Fiji's fantastic.
Not going to help your boys, but
Georgia, Georgia's looking good. Japan's been a real success story. Yeah. We've got the Under-20s Rugby World Cup starting next weekend, and some of these nations are going to do well. A
few small people that we need to.
It's thriving in France.
Scalpel out of the game, like all of the RFU, some of World Rugby, just a little surgical scalpel. Out they go. And I'm sure it could be turned CVC, not scalpel, off it goes, and then it'll be fine. Anyway, so back to the game.
Yeah.
I thought La Rochelle physically dominated Toulouse, which is obviously the main metric which I look at when I'm watching a rugby game. For most of it. I mean, their scrum was dominant. They were dominant on the gain line.
They should have won last week.
Toulouse really struggled with La Rochelle's big carriers. If you give them half an inch of space, there's an amazing carry by Bourgarit, who comes back on the inside. He just can't be stopped. And yet, despite all that, I think we'll look back at this game. It shows so many people the importance of taking points, because both teams, even when they were just on the edge of being knocked out, they were still in the fight. I don't think they were ever more than 2 scores away.
6 points.
Yeah.
Might be 1 score.
Yeah.
6 points was the biggest gap, I think,
was it?
At any point, yeah. And Thomas Ramos, the importance of kicking sticks.
Yes,
taking the points when they're off at Hastoy missed a drop kick, and did he miss a couple of conversions that again would have made a difference? Not putting it down to that, but it like you say, some of those fundamentals are really important, and Toulouse had them. And Ronan O'Gara, I don't know if you've seen him speak. He's like, I'm fed up with people talking about, this is a giant Toulouse team. I don't see that. I don't get that. We should have won that. We were the better team, and
I agree with him.
That's down to us.
I agree.
Yeah, I do completely agree. Like I said before, you take out those 2 tries, it's a 2-score win for La Rochelle. I do think La Rochelle were hard done by a couple of refereeing decisions, but if you make those missed tackles, you make those handling errors that cost those 2 tries, you can't bemoan.
Did you mean La Rochelle were hard done by?
Sorry, La Rochelle. Yeah. Sorry, La Rochelle were hard done by on a couple of. Particularly around the ruck. Yeah. There was a couple that went against them where they got penalised for being off their feet, and there was a couple that went against them where Toulouse were clearly off their feet, but it was La Rochelle penalised. So, but yet you can't bemoan that if you don't win by.
And let's just talk about that winning moment. What a way to win a final.
Well, this is it, right? This is sort of our sport encapsulated. Which is, you can go through some horrendous times. Now, I'm not saying playing a French top 14 final is horrendous. It's not. But to have the fortitude to make as many mistakes, big mistakes, as Entermite did, and then score that winning try.
Make big mistakes in the 5 to 10 minutes preceding that moment.
Yeah.
Missing the kick to the corner, dropping a ball, which I think led to a penalty, which La Rochelle extended their lead, the knock-on.
He went to play it with his foot for that knock-on, missed it with his foot, and it hits his hand.
You're like, does that boy have any doubt of his own abilities? I mean, I'd be doubting myself if I had knocked on, missed the kick, but no. And the criminal part about this, and this is the bit which I think Ronan O'Gara will need an inquiry, maybe a witch hunt, possibly a crucifix. But the substitute, whoever it was, who missed the tackle.
Was it Delan?
It might have been. I don't know who it was, but somebody.
Sure.
No, it was a replacement flanker.
In a bald head. Was it the flanker?
I think it's a flanker.
I thought it was one of the props, but I could be wrong.
The point is about replacements is like, you understand, don't you, if it's the 36-year-old second row who's been on for 75 minutes.
Yeah.
But not the replacement.
If Inter-Max spotted the prop out of position in the defensive line and took him, then fair play, but yeah, whoever it was.
It was the guy on the inside, because the guy who was marking him, he kind of steps in and accelerates, but the guy on the inside, who I think he was one of the reserve props,
I think you're right,
was just lazy covering that gap. He had more than enough time. If he just runs a little bit harder, he closes that gap and nothing happens. La Rochelle win the game. It was just lazy on the inside.
That's fine.
So Toulouse won their 22nd title, and La Rochelle still without one.
Without a top 14.
I thought they won one a few years ago.
No, they've never won it. Two
Heineken Cups.
Yeah.
But not that. And Enter-Mac, I kind of looked foolish at the end, but all game I was saying to JB, every time Enter-Mac made a mistake, I know he's starting for Toulouse, I know he starts for France, but I'm not that on board with him. I think he gets carried by the guys inside and outside. Dupont and Ramos do a lot of heavy lifting for him. In terms of game management, controlling the game, and maybe him being a bit of a straight man, but with that electric pace when it's needed. Maybe that is what you need. You can't have another super controlling game.
He looks amazing.
He looks and he does have some dynamite moments, like a few years ago against New Zealand, maybe 2 years ago, last year, playing out from his own in-goal area.
The only goal area. Oh,
yes.
He reminds me of one of those generic Australian backs that they like, if you
who can play centre, can play 15, can play 10. If
you just stripped away the positions, you didn't know who he was, and you just put him in a lineup with the most talented players in the world, he'd probably really impress you. Like, you wouldn't know where he played.
And he just smoulders.
Yeah,
he does.
Doesn't he?
You won't enjoy this, Tim. I know you won't enjoy this, but have you ever seen the clip of him handling Owen Farrell? It's wonderful. So he's got the ball underneath, like tucked underneath, next to the sideline. Owen Farrell's trying to, grab him, and he's just got his hand in Owen Farrell's chest like he's a small boy, keeping him at bay, and then offloads it. I don't know where the offload goes. Probably goes.
I think I know the clip. Yeah,
search good clip.
No, he's a smooth player.
But there's also some madness in this game. Do you remember? Did you see the one where Dante just throws it in the air for no particular reason? So, it's an incredible.
Not the one that led to the try. Not the one that led to the shock uprise. Because that was a massive upwards fumble.
No, it didn't. It led to a kick in goal. Right. So what happened was, I think Dylan Lades regathers the ball from a kick. It's an incredible catch, and he's absolutely belting it down the wing. Scrum off goes, distributes the ball goes all the way to the other end of the field. But for whatever reason is it Kurt Barlow?
Yeah.
It's a scrum off, yeah.
He just starts walking. Like, you can see the ball, he's walking. And as he's walking towards the breakdown with no urgency, Toulouse reset. So then he finally gets the breakdown, swings it out to Skelton, who you think, Skelton's obviously going to take the gain line, which he doesn't. He pulls it back to Hastoy. And Hastoy's got Toulouse lads around him everywhere now. So he sort of shovels it off to Dante. Dante tries to shovel it off, don't know where, just throws this torpedo pass right in the air. Someone catches it, and then they nearly score. Absolute madness. But it was a great fight.
I'll tell you what was absolute madness was the celebrations afterwards. So I've had a little look. There was a little video of
any ski masks.
The Toulouse. I haven't seen pictures of ski masks.
I've not seen that yet.
No, I haven't seen that. I'll tell you what I have seen though. I've seen the Toulouse players all jumping in the bath one by one.
Yeah,
it looks like it's a tradition the way they do it. So it was a massive bath. It was amazing actually. So it's like marble wall I don't know if it's at I assume it's at the Stade de France.
Well, I don't think they drove straight to the marble baths in Toulouse.
Exactly. So it's a big marble bath. So it's 3-sided, steps in, and it's floor to ceiling.
That's what you said with Rock Park.
Marble walls with this big bath with the bubbles in it, and the players are all jumping in one by one, cheering each other in. So and then they go in with the Brennas trophy.
So the Broughton Park baths, I never saw them, but they're a thing of legend. And back in the day, the Broughton Park baths were so deep, basically neck high. Yeah, neck high.
Stood up.
Yeah, stood up. Apparently they were absolutely amazing. So just another thing, isn't it? Which France still has, which has been taken away from us. Yeah. Baths.
There's a few
big men, baths, aggression, a decent league.
So they went to the bus. They had all the stuff with the Brennas trophy. I'm sure we'll see. Am I saying that right? Anyway,
well, no idea.
Brennas.
Anyway. I know what you mean.
Anyway, I'm sure we'll see pictures of Roman and Tamak. What's it called?
Wakeboarding.
Wakeboarding on it, or doing that thing where you push it along the edge. What's that called? Where you just jump on it as it's skimming. I don't know, whatever it's called.
No, that is wakeboarding, isn't it?
No, wakeboarding's out behind
it's been towed, isn't it? Wakeboarding.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whatever he did, he skimmed it along the shore at Toulouse and then jumped on it and surfed on it.
Well, it might be a good idea to remind our listeners why you're saying this, because it is tradition to deface a replica of the trophy. Yeah. Or is it the trophy itself? I think it's a replica.
I'm not sure.
But you get...
Good question, yeah. I'd never thought of that.
I think it's a replica.
It may well be a replica, yeah. That would make a lot of sense, because it was... On some of those videos from a few years ago, it was getting seriously manhandled.
Yeah. So it's things like they play bowling with it, but with players... how would you deface a trophy?
That's
a
great question.
Pneumatic drill.
Wood chipper. I mean, you've got to you can't go too far with it.
Yeah.
I was trying to think about how you could incorporate it into a CrossFit move, JB.
Ooh. Trophy jumps.
You'd sit it on the top. It'd be the extra inch on top of the box for your box jump.
Exactly. No idea.
I have no idea. But then the bus went into Toulouse with the players on the open top bus thing, and guess what songs they played? I love the fact it's France and there's still a universal repertoire of tunes that you play for this sort of occasion.
We Are the Champions.
Yes, they played We Are the Champions by Queen, and everyone sang along. They played another song which some people would hate that was played.
Oh, is it a Gary Glitter one?
It was not a Gary Glitter one.
Two Little Boys.
R. Kelly.
No.
Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, young girl.
Some people would hate it because it's overplayed.
Oh, right.
At sporting events these days, in recent years. It is overplayed. Sweet Caroline.
Oh my God!
They played that.
Oh my God!
I thought Toulouse would have more class than that.
Yeah.
Why is that so ubiquitous?
The chorus where because everyone knows it and everyone's
it was the England footballers late to the party. Like, it had been a thing for years, and then the England footballers are like, "Oh yeah, we've got this new." It was almost like, "Come on, lads."
Is that what
Mind
it
you,
is?
it's better than what they listen to in the dressing room. To be fair, even that is.
Well, it's death of culture now, Tim. So, you know the theory about the death of culture.
Yeah, there is nothing new.
There is nothing new.
Yeah.
So, we'll be listening to the same music as our kids, and their kids, and their kids. So, even football music has, ostensibly just become really mundane.
Yeah, and they also played "Freed from Desire" by Gala.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's Gala.
It is Gala.
"Freed from Desire."
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought that was written about the Northern Irish striker.
Yeah.
What was the guy's name?
Will Grigg.
Will Grigg's on fire.
That's the one.
That's the one.
And then it's been bastardised by every team.
Yeah.
I did see in the celebrations a certain Mr. Emmanuel Macron.
Yeah,
having a long.
Got to have a word with him. I mean, as still the world record holder for downing a pint. Which is true. If you're new to the podcast, that's absolutely true. Look it up on the Guinness Book of World Records website. I'm there. Emmanuel Macron, not only is he Buffalo, right-hand drinking, that is a shocking... I mean, I know it's harder to drink out of a bottle, but that's poor. I mean, you've got to commend the effort and the commitment to finish it, but
I'd
have done it for right-hand drinking and for no EG afterwards.
Do you know who Emmanuel Macron's best man was in his wedding? And how old?
Was it his wife's son?
No, it
his wife
wasn't.
His wife was his teacher, wasn't she? She was like 30 years.
You're joking.
You don't know that?
Have you
I
never
didn't know
seen
that. I've
Mrs.
seen her, but I know she's older. But
Oh.
that teacher.
So
Yeah.
What?
So
Yes.
let's just talk about one of my favourite.
What? So Macron got groomed.
Well, let's just talk about one of my favourite topics, which is French presidential spouses. So, like, Sarkozy has got unbelievable taste in ladies. Now, I'm not saying Sarkozy doesn't, but there is
The late Berlusconi. What a character.
Yeah, well, I tell you what.
Would you have gone if you'd been invited to a bunga bunga party? Would you have gone?
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to really
Find me
refuse
someone who
this.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
Find me one other podcaster. I wouldn't. Every one of those neckbeards would have been led there by the collar. They'd have loved it. Anyway, what's his name? Who was the socialist who got in? I can't remember his name now. The last one, the really boring one.
Hollande.
Hollande, yeah.
So he was obviously caught. He was married to Ségolène Royal, but then was caught having an affair with. I think it's one of his cabinet ministers. I think. So everyone in France has got every French president has got a really interesting sex life. Back to Macron, his best man when he got married, I think, was aged 75. He is a weird bloke.
What is his story then?
He was an investment banker, married his ex-teacher, somehow started up a party called On March.
Oh, yeah.
He
started the party,
out of nothing.
He started it, yeah, of course. He wasn't installed there, and he isn't bought and paid for by anyone. Totally
him. But weirdly, his best man was like 75. I'm going to have to look this up.
The whole thing is...
That's bizarre.
It's a bit weird. Like, there was a little part of me when I was watching him drink that, thinking, of course he's drinking so slow. Lizards don't have the necessary muscles to swallow that volume of
his beer?
Alcohol.
Tonguing it out, licking his beer. Weird guy. Right, so I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think we've wrapped that up. But
congratulations to Toulouse.
Congratulations to Toulouse and to France on leading the way in rugby. And it would be a great story if they win the World Cup in October.
It would be.
That is a monumental challenge.
I did watch this game thinking, obviously, Toulouse won, and it was 50-50, or maybe La Rochelle should have won it. But I couldn't help but walking away from that thinking, Leinster messed up big time. I mean, they hammered Toulouse, like, comfortably, and they were 21 points to 0 up against La Rochelle. They choked so monumentally badly in that final. It's unbelievable. It really was Leinster's loss, that final.
Yeah. True. You mentioned the Heineken Cup earlier, and you were just talking about the final there. It's not the Heineken Cup anymore.
Yeah, that is interesting. You mentioned that to me just before we came on air.
28 years they've been title sponsor.
Well, there
was a little window where they weren't.
There was. So they were still...
It was the European Champions Cup. Yeah.
Sorry, just on Macron's best man. His name is Henry Hermand. He was born 11th of July, 1924. He died in 2016, aged 92. That was his best man.
So he's basically 50 years older then.
That is the guy who he spent his formative years drinking with and told embarrassing stories about when they went to Ibiza or whatever it was.
He's about the same age as his wife.
Yeah, and then related people, my favourite, Carla Bruni's come up. So if I go quiet for a little while, it's because I'm scrolling through his pictures.
So Heineken Cup, there was a period...
There was.
When they restructured about 10 years ago for a few years when... I think I'm right in saying that Heineken was still the top sponsor for that period of time, but they were not the title sponsor.
Correct, which is, I think, what's going to happen. They're stepping back from being title sponsor. They'll still be involved. And the problem, I guess, is, and this is what the Champions Cup found last time, is because it had only ever been sponsored by Heineken, people think of it as the Heineken Cup. No title sponsor wants to part with their cash for something which is known by another brand.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the issues with naming your stadium after a company.
And Heineken, they don't need to be the title sponsor. They can have it on, say, for 3 years as title sponsor, and then 5 years not. Save that extra few £1 million, and everyone will still call it the Heineken Cup.
Yeah. Well, it strikes me that alcohol companies are having a bit of a tough time though with sponsorship. Because, I don't know if you've noticed this, all the sponsorship now is about their zero-rated alcohol products.
They are pushing that quite heavily.
Whether that is just a pure marketing decision, it's okay. Well,
I think it's a big part of the part. I understand what you're saying, that it's more.
It's acceptable.
It's more acceptable
face of drinking.
But I do think it's a factor. And this, I mean, I was having this chat in the pub with some mates the other night. The kids aren't drinking.
No, they're not.
Like we were chatting, right? So it was the coaches from our what will be now under 16s, and I was like, I was a bit surprised at our tour that happened at the end of the season this year. I was like, by age 15, I wasn't. I'm happy that they're whatever they want to do is fine. But there was, as far as we were aware, there was no drinking amongst those lads.
Crazy.
When I was 15 and on tour,
there was loads of drinking. That was the whole point of it.
Yeah.
But here's a question.
It was so
for you.
exciting as well.
Yeah.
At that age.
Well, here's a question for you, right? And I wonder.
Obviously, drink responsibly.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is. I don't know, but well, let's find out. With kids not drinking, so what the RFU used to say, with some justification, is that the hardest time to keep hold of players is between 16 and 18, when they discovered girls, alcohol, and going out.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, these boys are going to discover girls regardless. That's great. Although, actually, some of the other evidence suggests that they might not. But, changes happen. But if you remove the alcohol from them, I wonder if the retention will stay high. I wonder if they're not drinking, will they stay in the game?
Well, I don't know if it's being removed. I think it's voluntarily.
But that's what I mean. Like, so if you remove that element, voluntarily
I see what you mean.
or otherwise, will they stay in the game longer?
Yeah.
Or will they drift? Because one of the beauties of the rugby club was that's where you could get a beer and not be judged.
It was a unifying factor, wasn't it?
I'm looking forward to seeing how it all pans out.
Like this summer, that when I was aged 15 going into year 11, year 10 into year 11, which is what my son is at the minute, just finishing year 10. That summer, I remember that it was down the park with your ready mixed bottle.
Hang on, is that GCSE age?
He's doing first year GCSE. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it was this was the year when it was suddenly
when it starts.
I wanted to go to the park with a ready mixed bottle so I could drink enough to have enough courage to go and cop off with someone. Basically, that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Rugby training isn't high on your agenda at that point.
No.
Right. So what? Do we talk about?
So can Phil? So following on from Heineken Cup, Phil. Right. We haven't actually had a discussion on this, but from the little chat we had in JB's kitchen, you are positive about the new format, and I raise my eyebrows at that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be open-minded and willing to be convinced. Can you explain the new format of the European Champions Cup next season succinctly enough that I will understand it and will be positive about it?
So
probably not. I think.
I didn't. I mean, the other one was difficult to understand. I thought this would be easier to understand, but I don't know what it is. But if you don't think that, I'll be interested to see what I actually do think of this.
Yeah.
But you do like it, Phil?
Well, to say... So, I did say...
Relatively,
I think it's an improvement, let's say that, because two enormous pools where no one knows what's going on.
2 pools of 12, 8 go through.
And,
you don't know who plays who, not sure.
Yeah. A bit irrelevant. Now... So they've kind of solved that problem, but there are 4 pools of 6 each.
Correct.
The other problem where you were playing teams, you weren't necessarily playing the same teams, and your games against those teams were kind of irrelevant, unlike the previous iterations where all the head-to-heads matter. That is still an issue because within your pool, so there'll be 2 from each league in the pool. So let's take a step back. 4 pools. There are only 2 blocks of seeding. There are 4 teams that are tier 1 seeds. Those are the 3 winners of the domestic leagues plus the winner of the Champions Cup.
Correct.
Which means it is Saracens, Munster, Toulouse and La Rochelle. Right. Had La Rochelle won both, Leinster as the beaten finalists of Europe would have got that final spot. So they are the headline acts in all the 4 pools. Then...
Open draw, other than that.
Open draw, except for you can only have 2 from each league in each pool. So you'll always have 2 Premiership, 2 Top 14, and 2
Now,
URC.
so far, so good.
So you could have Munster and
Leinster in the same pool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because they're all ranked the same.
Okay.
Right. So
far it's great.
So far, so good. Okay, but
I'm in.
Then
it's at this point.
So, yeah,
is where I go. It just rapidly goes
I
downhill.
can't wait to see what this twist is. Go
So all, yeah, exactly. That's all that they've simplified. They've made the pool structure cleaner, and yeah, it's all okay to understand. Now, you never play a game against anyone from your same competition.
Correct.
So,
Right.
and you will play 2 home and 2 away games. So there's only 4 games in the pool stages and 4 games in the knockout stages, meaning 8 rounds. So there's last 16, quarter, semi, and final, all of which are single games. But the 4 games you play in your pool, you will play them against teams from the other competition. So if you're an English Premiership team, you'll play 2 games against URC competition and 2 games against Top 14 competition. Yep. But you play 4 different teams.
Yeah.
So there's limited links, and that
there's no home and away.
Yeah, it's not. You don't play. So like Ulster, for example, won't play La Rochelle or Claremont home and away.
So you don't play anyone in your own pool?
No, you
Correct.
do.
No, you don't play anyone in your own pool.
No, in your own league from your own league.
No, yeah. So no, in your own pool.
It must be from your own pool, right?
No, you
Leinster
no.
and Leinster could be in the
I
same
understand
pool.
that you play 4 teams from different pools and from different competitions.
Yeah,
is that
that's
right?
how I'm understanding this, because Leinster and Munster couldn't be in the same group.
Yeah, but then there's 4 other teams in their pool.
How many
So there's
teams?
six teams. There's 24 teams.
Oh right, yes, correct.
Right,
And, yeah, correct.
yeah.
And this is where the issue is. Now suddenly, if you are Munster, you are desperate for Leinster to be in your pool because they'll beat the teams that you're competing with them against,
Yes.
Yeah,
And they won't beat you.
and they won't beat you because
can't
you don't
beat
play
you.
them.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, so there's ups and downsides.
But I think that's okay because it's not actually explicit about this. They're clear that there'll be no matches between clubs from the same league. This is on EPRC.
Yes, I think you're right. It is.
Website.
You play the 4 teams. You play the 2 top 4. So if it's a Premiership club, you play the 2 top 14 and 2 URC teams in your pool.
In your pool.
1 away, 1 home for each.
Yes.
Or
yeah.
two home games, 2 away games.
Now, what I don't get is whether there will be... It didn't... unless I've missed it, it didn't say that within that enormous Tier 2... So you've got 24 teams, 4 of them are in Tier 1, 20 of them are in Tier 2.
Yeah, that is the case.
It didn't say whether the Tier 2 is then ranked.
No.
So
it's open draw.
So Leinster have precisely the same weighting as whoever the...
Saracens.
They do have the same weighting as Saracens,
Well,
but they have the same weighting as Gloucester.
Or who in the URC that would have snuck in...
maybe one of the Cardiff or Ospreys or one of those teams.
So the reason I say that is because I guess you're thinking of it in terms of they've got the same ranking
Cardiff.
as Cardiff, right?
Yeah.
But actually, the more dangerous scenario for them is having the same ranking as, or having no ranking, because they would have had the same ranking as Saracens, and now they could end up with the pool Munster, Leinster, Saracens. I don't know. Throw in.
But Munster are delighted if they're in a pool with, like I say, with Leinster, because there's a good chance they think, well, there's a fair chance Leinster might beat Saracens.
Yeah,
so.
but if Leinster were in there in the past and they were weighted,
Yeah.
would mean that you get lesser competition.
Yeah.
But you could end up with, I don't know,
Racing 92.
Racing. It could be a pool
Bordeaux.
of absolute death. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could end up playing other than... So La Rochelle, Stade Toulouse, Munster and Saracens can't be in the same pool, but then you could have... So you could get La Rochelle, then Racing 92 or Bordeaux go into that pool, and... you could have, say, Stormers and Munster or Leinster and Munster. So who's the lowest rank? Bath and Bristol could end up playing La Rochelle, Bordeaux, let's say. Doesn't really matter. Pick any of those French teams and then go away to Leinster and go away to the Stormers, or go to Munster. Like, it could be... There's certain teams who could get absolutely screwed by this.
I actually think if you're taking... How many from each league? 8, is it?
It is, and that is another... The fact that...
Farce.
The fact that...
It is and isn't, right? So
It is.
Let me just run something past you, okay? So just imagine that there's no salary cap, it's promotion relegation. I would say it's a farce. But with the Premiership, with its cap, and it's meant to be quite even competition, the top 8 should be relatively close. So I don't think there's going to be a huge difference between Sale Sharks, who are the second best team in England, and the sixth best team in England. I just don't think there's going to be... And certainly there's not going to be much difference between the third best team in England and the eighth best team. So I think it limits your top end. Maybe you got two teams in the Premiership that might be semi-competitive. Actually, all the way down to, I'd say, 10th probably in the Premiership is going to be a reasonably similar standard. So I don't have a huge issue with that as such.
But if you're comparing within the Premiership, yes, take that point.
However,
but then when they go to play in France or the top,
they're going to get smashed.
The top Irish or South African teams,
they're going to get smashed.
Yeah,
they're going to get absolutely ruined.
So there will be a good chunk, as there always is, a good chunk of dead rubber games. Because as soon as you lost the first two games, it's over.
Yeah, the Premiership this year is going to be the sick man of Europe because the toll it's going to take on these Premiership teams. Like, I remember watching Sale.
There will be fewer games, don't forget.
Yes, this is true. But even so, I remember the toll it took on Sale. So Sale would finish fifth. And they'd have, like, I'm making up the game stuff, but they'd have Leicester and they put out their strongest team in the league, so they're always wanting to do well in the league. And then Toulon show up.
Or Clermont.
Clermont, yeah. And they did try. Bless them.
There is only 18 league games now, though, and 18 and 4.
22
games.
That's a good
in
number.
Total. It's all right.
Yeah,
better.
That is one of the positives of the terrible situation is that's maybe about the right amount of rugby.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, well, it's not much. It's still too much. It's too much by about four games. But we're trending in the right direction.
But here's the thing. The constant tinkering with the competition, and I look at this format and think this isn't going to be the format that goes forward for... Well, okay, so... It depends how they've arrived at this. The way they've arrived at this is all wrong. They haven't gone, we've got the premier club competition in the world. What is the best way to showcase the great teams and the great competitions and the rivalry and create a spectacle for fans in the stadiums, for people watching on TV and great matches? They haven't gone, that's the objective, how do we do it? They've gone, we've decided how many rounds we want, now we have to crowbar a format that fits that, and it's just the wrong way round. It's just, they've gone, we want eight game rounds, we want 8 match rounds, for whatever reason, and that's how they've arrived at all these various different formats which they've tried, which are all inferior to the traditional format, which had its limitations. There were the occasional dead rubber sometimes in round 6 and 5. I get that. But generally those, was it 6 pools of 4?
It was 6 pools of 4, home and away.
Home and away.
Six pool games.
You have that camaraderie between some clubs. You can look forward and go, oh, brilliant, we're going away to Toulouse, and then we get to welcome their fans back to us. And
yeah, you're absolutely right. So, to back you up here, I don't watch UK Super League with... It's not UK Super League, it's UK and France. Just let's call it Super League. I don't pay much attention to it. But I do love to watch a game, and when I do watch a game, I can pull up a league table and say they are there, and this team is here, and therefore I know roughly where these two teams are when they play. As someone who dips in and out, you can't do that with this European Cup. You have no idea. You've just got to sort of guess. Well, they're going to play these guys. I don't know what the permutations are because I'm not a mathematical genius. I have no interest in finding out. I'm just watching this game, and I have no idea what the actual meaning of it is.
I quite enjoyed that round 6. Do you remember when you used to have like a... That's what we had Phil for. Round
the only reason I'm here.
Explain what the different permutations are and how this team can go through and what happens if they win and they lose. I loved all that.
Yeah, I don't mind that because I guess when you're that invested, and it's a second place team in each pool goes through. Like, that is exciting then. That is exciting.
Or it wasn't even second place in each pool because the numbers, it was like the...
2 runners up.
It was only the top 2 in that.
Well, and here's the other thing. In this pool stage, 4 teams go through to the quarterfinals in each pool.
Yeah.
4 out of 6.
To fit in the round of... So the round of 16, it's good in theory and it gets more rugby, but... Because of the way you weight it, it's basically just all home wins almost all the time.
Yeah.
And now you do... Maybe Ulster found out in the last couple of years. I'm just trying to think back where they got... Was it last season when they got the second top ranking and... Was it Racing 92
it was because of COVID defeats. They ended up getting Toulouse.
Yeah, Toulouse.
I worked that game.
It was home and away.
Home and away, and they
beat them away.
They beat them away. And then DuPont in the last minute.
Yeah, that was
That's heartbreaking.
Thank you, because I think they won all 4 games in the
Yeah.
pool stages as well,
Yeah.
which is brilliant. And the thanks that you get for winning all 4 games to lose. Cheers, boys.
Yeah, thanks.
So yeah, I do agree, and I will take it back. It is an improvement, but like I say, they are not. They should start with. We want to make the best competition we can.
Is
Not
it?
we have this. We want this many game rounds.
Is it, do you think, not game rounds, but total games? One for the broadcaster, so how many games can we get? And also,
I think it's weekends.
yeah, well, no, not just no, I don't think it is necessarily that simple, because I know how much a game weekend brings in money for those teams. So if it's like a straight knockout, which I would love actually, brutal straight knockout, you'd probably have the same weekends, but you just wouldn't have as many fingers in pies for 4 or 5 weeks.
Loads of teams would not be guaranteed a single home. Like half the teams would not be guaranteed a single home game.
Yeah.
Or depending on if you win away.
I tell you what, though, the biggest success the Heineken Cup has had in recent years, changing its format with the 2-legged games. I never thought 2-legged rugby would work, but my God, that was exciting.
That heartbreaking for an Ulster fan, the one that we've just recalled.
Yeah.
But that was a hell of a pair of games.
Well, it was because it was done with seedings and home and away games and going through. It was like you couldn't be sure who you were going to play. If it were a straight knockout, even 2-legged, and you just started with the best 16 teams.
Yeah, that'd be so exciting.
Home and away round of 16, home and away quarter-final, home and away
because
semi-final.
You can manipulate that really easily, can't you?
Yeah, you can, and then you're guaranteed a home game, and you could have the draw made like the tennis ladder for the Grand Slam tournaments, where you basically all the hotels could be booked for the different eventualities.
See what you're saying, yeah.
And whichever way it goes, and people could.
So I actually think that it might be more exciting to just have a completely open draw rather than a seeded draw.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
No. You've seen a seeded draw like Wimbledon.
No. Well, no, I wasn't necessarily saying the seed draw. I said one of the issues with the seedings were you could win, but depending on who else got through would affect whether you were home, whether you were away, who you were playing.
Yeah.
Like a purely open draw would be great.
Yeah.
Because I think that teams pay a lot of attention to teams they think they're going to see in the future, and they pay no attention to say. I mean, if you didn't know, imagine how little analysis you could do if you did not know who you're going to play in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time. It could be Gloucester, it could be Racing. That's exciting, and you have a little draw, and it could be Racing to lose in the opening round.
Well, the other element is that would make it a really cool way to. Because one of the things we talked about is maybe having as part of a global season a block of like they do with Super Rugby, just to have that as a block, and then you go on to the Heineken Cup. But actually, it would make it quite a cool format, a straight knockout, maybe even home and away. So you know that there's 2 weeks, and then another 6 weeks' time, it's the next round. 2 weeks, another 6 weeks. It's got the next 2.
I mean, rugby's got to have to think of something, hasn't it? Because it's not doing particularly well, particularly in England now. It's got to think of something, and I think something like this would be great.
So the only problem with things like that is this does guarantee every team gets 2 home games, which is but it'll be somewhere between £500,000 and £1 million of income just from those 2 home games. So if you don't guarantee that, if a load of teams don't get a single home game, it doesn't work. You've got to have a format that gets you that chunk of revenue.
And that's what I meant by, is this just engineered to get those?
Oh yeah, it has to be, unfortunately. Like these clubs do not have the luxury of saying we'll have the most exciting format regardless of whether we get
French
2 home
French
games.
clubs probably do. They could probably go, we'd like it,
some might do.
but we'll manage it. But Premiership clubs who only have 9 home games now.
But it's one of those things that what is the power of the league? So I think if the Premiership was as lucrative and as powerful as the top 14, and they went out, well, that's fine. We'll focus on the league. So I think you're right with the French clubs. They can
look at the FA Cup. You can just the big teams don't come until the 5th round to get money to all the smaller teams, and then it is just a straight knockout.
Third round, but
third round.
Yeah.
But then it is just it's just a straight knockout. Like those clubs, the top 40 teams in England in the Premier League and Wales don't need that revenue. It's just something nice for the fans to create a spectacle. Yeah. Whereas rugby are not, they're categorically not in that position.
And maybe that's why they're in this problem in the first place.
Well, let's talk about where players are going. The London Irish carcass that's being feasted on.
Yeah.
Sorry to put it in those terms. I don't feel good about saying that, but yeah.
gallows humour and all that.
Do you know, it is a situation where you should be excited for these moves, but actually you're just sort of sad. So Tom Pearson moves to Northampton. Fair play, great signing. I'm really excited to see Northampton next year with this reinvigorated squad. We've got how do you say his Munga?
Chunga.
It's definitely Munga surname, isn't it?
It is. I want to say Chunya Munga.
Chunya Munga, that's it.
I think he's a great player. Got Pearson. They've got another lad.
So Law's blind side, Pearson open side, Ludlam 8.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Just writing lads
Now
off.
we're talking.
Yeah.
So they're going to be
That
good.
is exciting.
But it's also quite sad.
It is,
Because they're not,
it really is.
Like, they're not come here because Northampton are building something special and they're just really ambitious. They're coming because they need jobs. They come because they need,
and there will be like Tom Pearson's next contract. He should be lining up a massive contract.
Yeah,
and it will be whoever's got left the salary cap to offer him a fraction of what he's worth.
Yeah, and it's a bit like Bath.
Or was worth.
The unknown that we'll never know whether Johan van Gran was actually good and improved Bath, or whether he was just really lucky that Worcester and Wasps went bust.
Yeah, because he picked up some bloody good players.
Yeah.
So you've just got these great players scratching around now for whoever's got room in the salary cap. Now, I hope Tom Pearson's been paid well. I'm sure he'll be paid adequately, but it can't be what he was worth. Because he's one of the most promising prospects in all of English rugby.
Well, I mean, if you were smart, then you would have anticipated the potential of this. It's been talked about long enough. We've got recent...
Strike!
Tell me something I don't know, Ump.
Well, unlike that nasty curveball, there aren't any surprises when you finance your next car with Carvana. You get real terms personalized for you right in your strike zone.
Really?
Strike!
How am I supposed to focus when you're telling me about Carvana?
Well, Slugger, you gotta keep your eye on the ball. Just like you can keep an eye on your customized down and monthly car payments.
I can customize those?
He's out and on his way to finance his next car with Carvana.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get pre-qualified today. We'll drive you happy at Carvana.
Recent experience of it with Wasps and Worcester, as I mentioned, and I think there would be a few clubs who might have thought it's probably worth keeping a little bit in our cap just aside in case someone goes pop. And I reckon, so I'm sure
you're right.
Tom Pearson might be being paid what he's worth. I think there's a reasonable chance of that.
That is a very good point.
And Bernard Janzi van Rensburg to Bristol, that's a good signing.
It is a good signing.
Really unfortunate because didn't even know him before he went to Irish, to be honest.
No, and also unfortunate because I was really enjoying James Williams in the 12 shirt for Bristol. So he's going to have some competition now, some big competition.
Well, him and Ravuvu, the young Fijian player coming from Drua.
Yeah.
That's a pretty tasty looking centre partnership, that.
Yeah. And Williams and Piers Francis, they're nicely stacked in that midfield.
Don't worry, Pat Lam will sort it out. Pat Lam's a great equaliser when it comes to these things.
I think that's a really nice signing.
Harry Arundel off to Racing.
Racing 92, it looks like, because he qualifies as a GIF player because he's 19.
So Arundel and Christian Wade in the same back line. Never thought we'd see that, but we will.
I mean, that's exciting. Again, Stuart Lancaster, look at what he's done for a load of young Irish players. I'd be really happy if he's got Henry Arundel under his watch.
This is going to be one of the most fascinating storylines. Is Stuart Lancaster the guy he says he is, or the guy? No, actually, he probably is the guy he says he is.
No, his development credentials are beyond question.
Well, okay, I think he's probably the guy he says he is. Is he the guy that we think he is? And I think when it comes to it, the cut and thrust of the top 14, he's going to flounder.
I'm not talking about how he'll get on at Racing generally. I'm talking about the fact the one thing you cannot question Stuart Lancaster is his ability to develop to get the best out of young players.
With the greatest of respect, of course.
Ask Dan Sheehan.
I would just ask this: what is he there for? Because if he's there,
no, I'm not questioning that.
If he's there as academy coach, I'm all for it.
That's a different question altogether. I'm not saying you may or may not be right on that. I'm just saying, as an England fan, having a 19-year-old potential star, and if Marcus Smith goes there as well, having a 23-year-old or whatever it is, 22,
yeah,
23-year-old.
I think his credentials.
I'm happy about that.
His credentials have been a school coach, about as useful in this case as his credentials at knitting.
Ask Len.
Like, he might be a phenomenal
Ask
knitter.
Caelan Doris. Ask Dan Sheehan.
Well, I mean, if Dan Sheehan,
Arguably the two best players in their position in the world.
if Dan Sheehan can just show me his medal, it'd be great.
Six Nations?
Not Stuart Lancaster.
Well,
Stuart
Lancaster helped him come through, as did many other people, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
It might work, and I hope it does work. I hope that Racing do awesome with all those English lads, whether it be Marcus Smith, whether it be Arundel, whether it be Wade, and actually Lancaster too. But I've just got this feeling that he's not who we think he is. He's very, very good at certain things, and maybe the sharp edge of competitive rugby is not him.
The other one from London Irish is Paddy Jackson.
So Leon.
Leon is...
Nice move.
Yeah.
Good move.
Heavily rumoured, although I don't think formally.
Yeah, because Lima Sopawanga was the fly half there and he's gone.
So, Leon is such a strange team. Because if you look at them, they're just like... They don't feel like there's any coherence to how they build it. It's just names and money and names and money. But they don't seem to have any sort of identity. And I think that might be a product of the fact that they've come up from Pro D2. That this iteration of the team is the only iteration of the team never to get relegated back to Pro D2. So prior to this, they'd been in...
They finished third last year as well.
Yeah, so they've been top 14 before, but every year they got relegated.
Yeah.
So this is the first team to stay in top 14.
For about 4 years now,
Yeah.
5 years now. Yeah.
But it's kind of... Do you know when Exeter came up here into Premiership, they had an enormous squad because they had the guys who got them in there, and then they kept on supplementing. And they're sort of... I think Leon are at the other end of that now, where they sort of got rid of all the guys who've got them there and are sort of trying to make this team. Well, so it's quite interesting.
If they are on that Exeter trajectory, then this is kind of about year 5 when Exeter started breaking into the top 4, which, if they're going to follow the Exeter model, it bodes well for the next, say, 5 years, and then everything will fall off a cliff.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Until Baxter corrects the ship.
I was looking at my hopeful touch wood that it all comes off, but I'm looking at my likely itinerary for France, and it will involve Lyon being a base for... I know it's like quite an industrial town.
What? It's like the French capital for cuisine.
No, it's cool. No, it's cool. I'm very happy.
Jazz and food.
So I think basically
Michelin-starred restaurants.
The first week.
Some people are never happy, are they?
No. The first 10 days is Marseille.
Why do you hate Lyon?
Is Marseille. I'm having to spend a lot of time in Marseille.
Oh no.
So Marseille and Nice, the first
I'd walk
10
to Lyon.
days.
If I found myself in Marseille, I'd walk to Lyon.
and then Lyon as my base for the next 2 weeks before then it being Paris and Lyon.
Do you have any idea who you're... I'm assuming it's England.
England, the home unions, but yeah, England in Marseille, that game against Argentina to start.
Yeah.
And then it's the next day, it's Wales, Scotland. Scotland, no. Scotland. I think
South Africa.
South Africa, Scotland. That's it.
Did you hear what
in Marseille same weekend?
Gatland said this
he
week?
wouldn't have taken the job had he known all this.
I mean,
that's a statement and a half, isn't it?
But it's also, I mean, it's a terrible statement, terrible look for the players, the union, and for Warren Gatland. But it's also the two things that jump out at me. One, do some research, but. You were there only like 3 years ago. Like,
the reason you're there is because you know stuff.
It's not fundamentally changed in the last 3 years from the preceding 12 years that you were there.
Yeah, he's had a shocker there, hasn't he?
It's a horrible, horrible statement.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I'm trying to bail him out.
There is no charitable way of framing that.
And for one of the greatest coaches in rugby ever.
Yeah.
There's no question, and I don't think the next year or two will change that massively. But it could mean that his career fizzles right out.
Yes,
he missed out on the All Blacks job, which he really wanted, and then it could be. It's a bit like a balloon, just with a little hole in it, just slowly but inevitably going down.
Yeah. And the Chiefs, after he has left. Well, they're in the Super Rugby final. Played best team in the league this year. And a couple of years ago, he really, really struggled to get anything out of them. So,
and he could have been England head coach.
Yes, and he was probably offered a.
He took.
Well, he probably offered.
He was I think he was offered maybe similar, maybe even more money by Wales, but he was offered a longer deal.
Yeah.
So it's just
interesting. Not a great look. And more people leaving Wales.
Yeah.
Liam Williams, Thomas Francis.
Yeah.
And probably myriad others.
Yeah.
So there was some news, and I don't want to report it because I'm not entirely sure it is true. But part of it, which was true, is Nigel Walker was talking about how to save Welsh rugby this week. On top of that, and his plan to save Welsh rugby is basically to spend more money on the ladies' team, because I think that's a proven route to success, is it not?
It is an incredible investment opportunity, as I understand it.
That's exactly what I hear too. So that is the way that they're going to save Welsh rugby, and best of luck. What did the Defence Minister of Israel say on the eve of the Iran-Iraq war? I wish all sides best of luck. So best of luck to Wales there.
We've got an email here, contact eggchasers@gmail.com from Giles.
Sorry, just before
it's
you
related to that, but yeah.
I heard somewhere that one of the proposals was to remove competitive rugby from a certain age group because it was unenjoyable to retain players. But I can't see it in that article which I've just read, so I'll sit on that until I can confirm it.
Giles, contact eggchasers@gmail.com has sent us a little picture of the BBC Rugby website. On the day of the top 14 final.
The top 14 final. So
top 14 finals just finished, and
this is great. This could be a weekly game. So top 14 final. Entamac redemption arc complete.
Incorrect.
What?
That was not the top. That was not one of the top 3 stories.
Gaelic genius, O'Gara falls the last hurdle.
Again.
Incorrect.
Christ, what could it be?
No, not even Jack Willis. No mention of England star Jack Willis wins top 14.
Top 14.
Oh, okay.
Started the season losing his job, ends the season.
All right, so it has to be
champion.
It has to be the biggest English story. Tom Pearson, of course, going to Saints. Promising
massive story.
Promising English.
Henry Arundel spotted in Paris.
Yeah.
No, it's not that.
No?
It's not that. No.
Christ, what could it be?
Top story. The Rugby Union page. This is emotion already there before Premier 15's final.
Of course
top
it
story.
Is. How could it not be?
Second story, Hunter named in King's birthday honours list.
Excellent. I mean, that's a pure sports story.
Rugby referee Cox proud after being awarded MBE. Sarah Cox.
Well, I mean, they're all equally valid.
Do you know what? I actually don't mind the BBC doing that. That's what the BBC is there for.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they're there for. They should be covering the stuff that other people won't cover because they don't have a guaranteed income, and they actually need to put stuff on that people will click on and engage with. So actually, that is the BBC doing their job.
Well, hang on, but you are, to be fair, you are reading from the women's rugby page, yeah?
That is just bbc.co.uk/rugby union.
Oh, right, okay, well, okay, fine. We'll just move on from that.
Yeah. I actually don't mind that because for the reason that I said.
Exactly for that reason, I'm fine with it.
There is something slightly annoying, isn't there? That if you were just interested in rugby and you went on the rugby union page,
yes,
it might not be exactly as promised.
No.
I mean, it's definitely rugby. It's worthy stories, but it might not be exactly what you were looking for at that time, which is precisely what you want from your news coverage.
Yeah. Lads, I'm watching this is just an email from Gav. Lads, watching the top 14 final. Second half has just started. Great match so far. I must admit, I'm watching it differently now, and I agree with JB.
There you go.
The top 14 is it. Like La Rochelle's budget of €33 million a year.
No, that's not the budget.
That's for the whole club, isn't it? That's all the staff.
Yeah,
it's 10 million, I think, for 10 million
euros.
Oh, mere 10, players, something like that. They have no hard to compete with that kind of money, even if you're IRFU funded. No, Gav. Leinster are spending as much as La Rochelle on their players.
I don't think they are.
They're not far off. They're not far off.
Well, even if they're not, their market value, if you disbanded that team, would be comparable.
Yeah, and you have to include in the calculation of Irish money. You have to calculate within that the unbelievably massive tax incentive benefit they get for playing there for 10 years.
Well, look,
because am I right in saying if they play there for 10 years, they get an average...
I don't know about this.
An average salary over that 10 years in one lump sum, tax-free.
It's like a rebate.
I don't know about this.
So Johnny Sexton got his was like half, or no, it might be the maximum you earn, or something like that. It's like a maximum, but you get 1 year's worth tax-free. And I think in the case of Johnny Sexton, someone calculated it would have been in the region of 400,000 to 500,000 euro or pounds or whatever. Tax-free, which is like double the amount.
Don't we have
to
be fair on this? And if that's the case, do we not have to count the the French holiday scheme, whatever that is. So when you finish, you get like a holiday on full pay.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's something. You as soon as I say it, you'll know exactly the scheme.
Oh, and if you get an injury, you're paid. The club, the government will just pick up your salary until you're fit again.
When I interviewed Ian Bolshaw, I was like, "What you're doing is I'm not working." All right, why is that? And he was on this scheme where you leave one job and for like 6 months they pay your full salary from the government, whilst not full salary but a large portion of it, whilst you transition to something else or retrain. I can't remember what it is.
You can kind of understand sometimes why farmers and real like working class people put on little yellow jackets in front sometimes.
Sometimes.
Anyway, so Gav, I'm not sure that La Rochelle would dwarf Leinster that much. I can't help but feel the ECPR has kept the last 16 of the Heineken, always the Heineken, to keep the English audiences interested, as most Prem teams probably won't get past it.
Yeah, that's probably another great reason why this is done.
That's a great point, that. This can't last either, as it is diluting what was an epic competition. I think we sort of touched on that. I hope more follow Willis to France. They deserve a payday, and the Prems simply cannot provide it. Call the RFU's bluff. Let the boys play and make hay. Yeah, I agree with pretty much all of that, Gav. Good one. And then Matt Clifford, contact eggchasers@gmail.com, is asking whether English rugby should franchise the top tier. He said, personally, I don't like the idea of it, but the more you look at the situation, the more it seems to make sense, and it would be following the world of, and obviously American sports and even cricket.
Yeah, I mean, the franchise is great, fine, like whatever. But it's just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. As long as you've got a CVC deal, there'll be no new investment. The only way the Premiership right this second, the only way the Premiership gets out the hole that it's in is if new investors, people that want to put their own money at risk, come in and funnel money into clubs to build back up the squads so they are the strength of La Rochelle and Toulouse and Leinster. But nobody will do that as long as there's a CVC deal.
Well, there's one thing. We keep hearing that attendances are increasing in the Premiership.
Not by enough.
No, I know, but that there were times when English clubs were winning European competitions.
Yes.
And we're competing regularly with the best teams, and we're led to believe that the attendances are better now than they were then. Okay,
so there's a few things going on here. Do you want me to address the competitiveness of the English teams back then? So, I mean, one of the reasons is, of course, the salary cap here was slashed by COVID, and then on top of that, the CVC deal hit, and they're measuring the audiences that come through the door from the return of COVID. But a few years ago, we were in a situation where Sale Sharks needed 6,000 people in their ground to break even. Well, they'll need 6,000 now to break even, plus extras to make up for whatever CVC is taking.
And that's actually the paying ones, not the free tickets they dish out.
I don't believe Sale give any free tickets. It's the height of entertainment. I mean, just
massively in demand.
Yeah, when Diamond was there, the height of entertainment.
Best team with ball in hand.
Best team with ball in hand. Actually, the Sanderson regime is bloody exciting when you see them on the field. They are very exciting on the field.
Yeah.
They're going to have to. Yeah, they're going to have to increase their attendances massively. But the point I was trying to make is the only way that the Premiership get out of this hole is to get rid of the salary cap potentially, which I'm not a fan of, and have a bunch of new owners, because when they were winning as well, the owners didn't mind throwing money at them because everyone thought that they were going to make some cash. Now they made no cash and they've sold off the Family Silver CVC. No one new will come in. So as soon as these lot lose their interest in rugby, nobody will pick up the pieces like they did for Wasps, like they did for London Irish, like they did for Worcester.
Well, I have sympathy with Premiership clubs. I think some of it is self-inflicted. A big chunk of it is self-inflicted. But I just want to flag up one thing that the Championship clubs have done in the last week. These people came in from the government-appointed people from DCMS coming in, and one of the things they said was, we're not really in the right place to come up with a new player game agreement or whatever it is for the game going forward, which is due to... So this is the last season of the current deal. And so they said to the Championship clubs, can we put it back a year? And they said, absolutely not. Their justification for saying no, not a chance, is they are, and I think more so than any Premiership fan, player, club, whatever, the Championship clubs are the hardest done by slice of rugby in England.
They are? No,
they are. Let me just put this.
They're the most maliciously treated.
Maliciously treated. Yeah, it feels malicious.
Yeah. So
they get £150,000 per year funding versus Premiership clubs £6.5 million per year funding.
And that's a quarter of what it was. The Championship clubs, a quarter or maybe even less than what it was.
And the Championship is the only aspect of rugby where everyone took dips in funding during COVID, and then everything else returned back to normal, except for the Championship, which stayed at that level. They malicious is. I'm inclined to use that word strongly. I think it's an absolute outrage.
So, just on the Championship, I've said this before. I'll say it again. If you are a man who owns a large carpet warehouse, or you made your money in whatever it is, do not spend your money on the Premiership. Spend it in the Championship. Be wise. Right, there's never been a better time for you to invest into the Championship. And I do say invest because you can keep all of your own money. There's no CVC. There's loads of talent out there who are desperate for jobs.
The supply of talent who will work for below what was their market value 2 or 3 years ago is pretty enormous.
And not just young lads that can't get contracts. Older players who might find themselves on the wrong end of a salary negotiation. They've got to go somewhere. And you've got clubs like Jersey, you've got clubs like Ealing. They're starting to become some interesting things on there, and it won't cost you much. Like it really, you show up to a Championship team and you spend £2 million. You can buy a lot of talent,
and then do what with it?
Well, it depends how exciting the Championship gets,
or how weak the Premiership gets.
Yes.
Yeah, you are almost banking on the Premiership continuing to fail, which it's not a bad bet. Like the rate of failure at the Premiership at the moment is pretty awful.
The Premiership is one team away from the abyss. Okay, it can stomach these 3 teams going because it's a weird number to start with. 3 go, you've got 10-team league. That's what they wanted anyway. Massey Taylor even said it might be a case of natural wastage. So they're where they want to be, but they're 1 game away from absolute abyss. Whereas if you're in the Championship, I think that's a much better. And just keep your powder dry. Wait for them to destroy themselves with their own stupid deal. And you're never going to see London Irish again. You'll never see Wasps again. You'll never see Worcester again. You're in prime position.
Do you not think?
No, well, maybe they do. But I tell you what, I was about to swear then. It'd be an absolute outrage if those 3 clubs skip a season and then reform and go straight.
They can only go in right at the bottom.
No, that's not what they got. I absolutely guarantee it. When those clubs come back, they'll go straight in the Championship.
I really think that's an absolute disgrace.
I think they will do it. Mark my words.
Put
it on the whiteboard. Hear me now, believe me later.
Even if they do, 30 grand for Wasps, it's a bloody good price. 30 grand for Wasps, 2 million on salaries. You've got a basis of a thing which someone can support. And if Wasps are in your location, and you had £2 million to put in, say, Coventry, or £3 million or £4 million, you've got a great story to tell, and all of a sudden you've got a nice little competition there. It doesn't have to be the biggest, but it will be sustainable.
Now, you just mentioned organisations tearing themselves apart from within.
Oh yes, please.
Did you see the Harlequins coaching announcement this week?
Yes, I did. The most remarkable coaching announcement since Bath.
It's great. Tabai Matson's got a promotion, right?
I assume so.
I was waiting. So I started reading that, and I was like, so Danny Wilson comes in, Chris Millard gets promoted, restructure internally. I was like, they're not saying anything about Tabai Matson. They're not saying anything. And it was like a footnote. So
feels a bit like we've gone back to how it was when we won the league. A bit.
Yeah, maybe.
A flatter hierarchy. Everything
is just confusing because they're all given titles that make no sense to me.
Yeah, it's great, these titles.
Danny Wilson comes in, what do they actually call him? Given the roach of... So Danny Wilson comes in, given the role of coaching coordinator, which I have no idea what that means.
Well,
even with Stuart Lancaster, who went in as senior coach, which was kind of a niche, but it was clear that he was just below Cullen, but just above the other coaches. So that was nice and clear. So Danny Wilson comes in as coaching coordinator. What that means, I have no idea. Billy Millard, who was the director of rugby performance, has now moved to the director of rugby.
And he was also a general manager at one point.
Yeah. I think of him... I've just been listening to the... I was going to say St. Louis Rams, the LA Rams general manager on Econ Talk last
really?
week. Yeah, Les Snead.
Les Snead, yeah.
Yeah. which is quite interesting. If either of you have, you're both into your NFL, you both know who Les Sneyd was. I didn't. It's not the best guest, but it's quite an interesting chat. But yeah, I would have put him more like an American GM rather than actually involved in the coach. But yeah, he was last season director of rugby. Director of rugby performance last season. He's now director of rugby. Nick Evans and Adam Jones remain in their positions as attack coach and so Adam Jones is scrum and transition coach.
Which is academy transition to senior, not transition through different phases of play.
And also not transition from one gender to another.
Of course not. But it could be. There's no reason why not.
And Harlequins do definitely support that kind of thing. We know explicitly. Jerry Flannery he's now got sole responsibility for defence coach, and only after announcing all of that do they state that Tabai Matson, who I'm certain was director of rugby last season, but they don't actually explicitly state that, he has now transitioned, hopefully with the help of Adam Jones, into the newly created Director of Performance Developing Coaching role. Director of Performance Development Coaching role. And that is absolutely clear, and I can't see why anyone would think anything otherwise. So there you go.
Yeah,
Quins have nailed it.
Who's going to be the person who does pre and post match chats?
Danny Wilson.
I reckon they'll just share it between Flannery, Evans,
So
Jones.
Danny Wilson is Cardiff.
Possibly, yeah, but Tabai Matson did most of them last year.
Well, he did most of them last year, so maybe it'll be Millard then.
Okay, so
he's in the role that Matson was in last year.
So Danny Wilson was Cardiff Blues, right? And a bit of, is he in Glasgow, maybe?
It says in here Leicester as well.
I don't remember him at Leicester.
Yeah, most recently in the Premiership with Leicester Tigers, international Scotland. Huge experience, coached in the URC internationally with Scotland, and so he's Glasgow, definitely. Scotland, most recently in the Premiership with Leicester Tigers.
I don't remember that at all. I think that's wrong. Is that on the Harlequins?
This is the formal Harlequins announcement. This is on Harlequins, quins.co.uk.
Like, I know it's a reshuffle, but that feels like Tabai Matson, you've got a contract, but
because
you're out.
Tabai Matson was always a strange appointment because they won the Premiership without him, and then they bring him in, and they have less success when you have someone in that role.
He's a nice guy.
I really
sounds like
him.
He's good to listen to, good to chat to.
I've heard some good things about Tabai Matson from some coaches that I respect, and I was like, this is a pointless appointment. They've just won the league. It's not much better for them. Oh no, this guy will make a difference. Well, he has. Do
you remember when Todd Blackadder came in at Bath and it was with Tabai Matson? He was meant to be, and then Matson couldn't be there, and everyone at Bath said that's when the kind of wheels came off. Was when Matson had to go.
So Danny Wilson. The reason I mentioned Cardiff is because Billy Millard was also Cardiff. And that's the link, I think. I'm sure it's the link.
Oh, Danny Wilson band. Did you know there's a band called Danny Wilson?
No, I did not.
No, yes, I did know that because it was one of those. He did the most famous song is Mary's Prayer.
It is. Well, look at that knowledge.
Professional.
Scottish pop band formed in Dundee, 1984.
It's one of those weird bands where you think it's a person called Danny Graham and it's actually Danny Wilson, and it's a band. I was going to say that because there's another example, a shit Scandinavian band,
Mike Snow,
called Lucas Graham.
Oh well, Mike Snow are not they're Scandinavian, but they're not
footballer.
Shit in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or Mike Snow, as some people say.
I've got to ask you, Phil, as well. Did you enjoy? But we were talking about the rain earlier in Manchester. Did you enjoy the biblical storm that arrived for the parade, the Man City parade? That must have been the only upside to.
Well, I did and I didn't. It was quite nice to see that with the open top bus tour and lightning flying around, but I didn't because after my devastating ankle injury for the last 6 months, which re-triggered lots and lots and lots of old ankle injuries, I actually went down to Sale Harriers to go and do a track session for the first time in over 6 months.
During that?
And 15 minutes before I was about to leave the house, that started, and a few WhatsApps flying around. People had actually got there and couldn't get out of the car because it was torrential.
Pathetic.
Were you in Manchester on that day?
Yeah. But
I've never seen rain like it.
There was like sheets of hail coming down, like
I've never ever seen anything like it.
coming down.
Global warming.
It was incredible.
Yeah. But I got to I did actually make it out to the track, and it was under about 3 inches of water. It was.
And you didn't train?
Totally unplayable. The Sale Harriers that Steve Diamond tried to destroy, taking a massive, amazing community resource away from the locals, is I don't know if you've ever run there. It's a shale track. It's not rubber, so I ran a tiny amount. It was just tearing up. You couldn't have run on it.
I was at the CrossFit, my CrossFit box, waiting to do a session, and it happened. It was like 25 past when this rain started, and the class was starting at 50 and the other class, they all stopped early to walk over to the door and watch, because I genuinely never ever seen rain like it.
Nuts.
There was one pre-season at Talk H where it started raining, and it was like just biblical. But I love it.
Yeah, I loved it.
The more unusual the weather, the more I want to put on my boots and just get out there.
So I ran to the track, which it's not far at all. While it was still going on, and it was ace running down the road. Because before I got to the end of my drive, I was just like I jumped in a swimming pool. Well, totally drenched.
There was a Johnny Wilkinson thing, wasn't it? Like, I train every day because I don't think anyone else will be doing it.
It's kind of a Daley Thompson thing.
Was it?
Daley Thompson always used to train on Christmas Day because he thought that would be the one day when his opponents wouldn't. So what would give him that edge?
Well, I always feel the same way about.
But no, Johnny Wilkinson definitely would have said it. But
no, he definitely did say it. But that's where it came from.
Daley Thompson, yeah.
It makes sense.
I'm just looking up the quote because the quote for. Yeah, here we go. I trained twice on Christmas Day. Because I know others aren't training, it gives me 2 extra days. Daley Thompson.
We played for Talk H against Fleetwood, which is in Blackpool. And on the way to Fleetwood, it started snowing, like massively snowing. I just remember saying to my friend Jens, who I was driving up with, like, yeah, whatever you do, don't answer the phone. Don't let them cancel. Do not let them cancel because we want to play them. And we got there, and it's completely snow covered. Not only is it snow covered, it was snow covered, but on a waterlogged pitch. So underneath the snow was water on their pitch. So they said, I mean, I don't believe them, but fine. So you had to walk about half a kilometre to a kilometre to play on this horrible school pitch, which was covered in snow. So on the way out, I was like, boys, just throw on your vests. We're not going to get dressed up. We're not going to get in coats. Normal faces all the way. So we walked in our vests, and every scrum was like normal face, normal face, normal face. Don't show that we're cold. It was comfortably the most enjoyable game I had that season except for the games we played against, say, Widnes or something like that.
Yeah, the real tough one, ding dong.
It was the best game because it was so bloody tough, and every time you went on the ground, it's like, oh, that hurts so much.
Yeah, listening to you talk now, Jay, I still haven't quite. There's still a bit of me that doesn't believe that.
I'm going to play. I'm going to play.
Yeah.
I'm going to play in Wales.
Okay.
I'm going to go back and play for Colwyn Bay, and when they decide that they want their children's rules, then I will definitely stop. But I'm not done. I'm not done by a long way. I just will not play children's rules.
Well, you're in the best nick of your life as well.
Yeah,
legitimately.
It is interesting. I know you're cynical about this, but it is. I'm finding it slightly comforting. Bearing in mind, I'm not thinking for me and playing. I'm thinking for coaching and possibly refereeing, which I said I wouldn't do, but on the basis of this, maybe I will. My son's under 16s age group. What we're hearing about these tackle classes that are happening at clubs where they're disseminating the best practice based on the new law changes in England is that not anything's really changing.
Well, something's changed. And, well, look, if nothing's really changed, it should make you even more angry that they're just doing this for optics. Like, they shouldn't be changing the game. They shouldn't. I mean, what a damaging thing to be doing.
I agree, and there's lots of podcasts where people will hear us saying it in various strong and mainly strong terms that we totally agree with that sentiment. What I'm saying is, I think maybe there's enough people that agree that actually it is just for perception and optics, and the reality it's not really going to change. For example, the one issue we had was that ambiguous new law that was in, which is it will be foul play for the ball carrier to significantly alter their height into contact, which significantly, what does that mean? Well, the flesh on the bones with that appears to be if you run with your back parallel to the ground.
Yeah, or shoulders below hips.
Shoulders below hips, and that would be excluding anything within a metre of a ruck, or taking a pop off 9, which I'm sorry, it never ever happens in a game.
If you're running with your shoulders below your hips, you've got a problem.
Yeah, well, look, I'm telling you now, they are laying the groundwork for something more sinister.
Perhaps
it's how you do it.
Perhaps,
absolutely, they are.
But
these are not good people.
But I'm encouraged that maybe whilst they've been able to have the headlines that they want, that they're doing something, which is maybe all they want for lawsuits and stuff. The reality of what the game is going to look like on a Saturday afternoon this September is not going to be any different.
It's getting me more angry now because what about the lies? What about we followed the science? Well then, did you follow the science? I mean, if nothing's really changed, did you follow any science?
No, but we've been through this in lots of different. We've gone through this in lots of arenas in the last few years, JB, haven't we? We know this. We know this.
Yeah, well, not in my sport, and that's why it's upsetting. So, not in my sport. I play rugby, so I don't have to think about following the science.
Yeah.
What else have we got to talk about?
Danny Wilson was announced by Leicester Tigers on the 15th of January 2023. Post Sinfield and Borthwick leaving.
Yeah, there you go.
The only other thing he was only announced to the end of the season.
Under 20s World Cup starts next weekend. I think ITV4 are covering. I've got like daily wrap up shows. I think they might have some live games as well. You might hear a familiar voice on next weekend's day one.
Exciting
wrap up show. So keep your ears peeled for that.
Very exciting.
But that's happening, and then the only other thing in rugby that I know you wanted to touch on, JB, was the squads of the Pacific Islands.
Yeah, I think they're really exciting.
Just before that, this is brilliant because last time you were covering an under-20s, you discovered Geordie Barrett,
Andrew Porter,
Ty Furlong, or was it Andrew Porter, not Ty Furlong?
Andrew Porter, Stockers,
oh my boy, Stockers. Yeah, hopefully he'll be back to his best.
I came back raving about those boys, telling you watch out for those, and they all all went on.
Absolutely nailed it.
And Pete Steph Toy as well.
Nice.
Yeah. Who would have guessed that he'd have made it? But you did get one wrong.
Tell me about that giant South African mutant.
You did get one wrong.
I did. Max Deegan I thought was going to be really good. So maybe
Max Deegan's not bad though.
He's all right, but he looked really good in that tournament, so he didn't quite fall. And Harry Malinder.
That's knee injuries. He could have been one of the greats.
Yeah, he could have been. That's a real shame, that one.
Yeah.
That's our Geordie Barrett.
Yes, could have been.
I am looking for...
Yes, the squads.
The squads. Have you got the squads there? Because I can't find them.
Well, I know Tonga's outside backs could be amazing. I think as we discussed No, we didn't discuss last week, did we?
Samoa have got some interesting bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So Samoa have called up Adam Coleman.
Well, who's coming? I was going to say, who's coming back? You've got Adam Coleman's back from Australia. You've got... Who else? Who are the other big name Samoans that are back?
Well, I've got a squad in front of me, so this is a little bit embarrassing now. But I was quite impressed by names. For Tonga, it's much more impressive. So everyone knows about Fakatoa. They know about Sir Charles Piatow. Samoa.
Aki at centre.
Yes. Peter Aki.
Oh, here we go. I've got Samoa's squad here.
Yeah. Charlie Faumuina.
Fritz Lee's in. He always was.
Stephen Luatua, Lima Sopwanga, Christian Lealiafoa.
Yes.
Michael Alatoa.
These are
now
Jeff Tumanga Allen.
Because Michael Alatoa, there's Michael and Alan Alatoa, isn't there?
Alan Alatoa is the Aussie.
Yes.
Australian
and Michael's has been.
It's not the same person.
Yeah, so he's not transitioned.
No, he's not.
Right. So good. So what struck me about those names is not the raw talent, because they've always had the raw talent. Same with Fiji. It's the experience.
Stephen Luatua.
I mean,
there's
you don't need that much coaching now.
And something that is prevalent in that Samoa team, but not particularly in that Tonga team, is you've got two genuine international halfbacks in there in Samoa, Lealiafoa and Lima Sopwanga.
Yeah,
which is something that probably the Tonga team, for all of the enormous meaty forwards and exciting outside backs they've got, they probably lack that experienced head as a halfback to guide them around.
But think about the guy, like a Coleman with all of his line-out.
Well, he's not in the squad currently, but
he is. I'm sure he is.
Not in this list.
But Samoa is.
Oh, he will be, but I think he's making himself available. He's not in this squad.
No,
he's in the Tonga squad.
Oh, of course he is. Tonga, not Samoa.
Adam Coleman is in the Tonga squad.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is.
So it's like you've got all of these bits and pieces, all this world-class experience with international caps from other camps, and it's going to make one hell of a difference. It is one of the best things that World Rugby has done. Yeah,
agreed. And it's one of the few times that we've been listened to.
Yes.
Because we were calling for it for probably 5 years before it happened.
I think it's brilliant. I think
it's absolutely brilliant.
It's going to make such a difference to strength of these teams.
Now, just one thing I would say is, when we muted this, we said it should only be tier 1 down to tier 2.
Yeah.
Which 99% of these are. But to have someone like Jean Klein, who was captain 2019 for Ireland, who was the reason why Devon Toner missed out on the 2019 World Cup.
Going back to South Africa.
Potentially going back to South Africa. I mean, he is a South African at heart, but it does highlight that is a bit of a farce. That he can transition to Ireland for a couple of years. And they're few and far between, but that does seem a bit silly.
Well, the reason I don't mind I don't mind it full stop, actually. But the reason why I think this had to happen is because when we say tier 1 and tier 2, these are arbitrary tags that we put on teams. They're not actually official tags that World Rugby put on teams.
No, but...
And therefore they can't say you're a tier 2 team, you're a tier 1 team, therefore one thing doesn't apply or does apply to you.
So my definition of tier 1 is very, very easy to write because it's Six Nations plus Rugby Championship.
Plus Japan?
Probably not.
Okay.
Just because I think Japan... this may be fleeting success for Japan. I mean, they've had probably, really 8 years or so, since 2015. Prior to that, they were a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of money that goes into the league, but that doesn't necessarily correlate with good long-term success.
I don't know about that. It's a strange one, because I'm so focused on what happens domestically. I don't pay any attention to, are there any good Japanese kids? I mean, there must be. It's a huge population.
It's an enormous population,
they've got a massive league.
And there is a lot of money, which means whether or not there's any good Japanese kids, they will attract potentially good players from South Africa or Australia or the Pacific Islands or anywhere, really. So they will attract talent in. But if the money gets dialed down, all that falls away. I don't think they've got... I think the foundations of the money, the foundations aren't the... I could be totally wrong in this, but the foundations aren't the, say, quality scrum coaches that they have in, say, Georgia, where they've got this unstoppable production line of absolute mutants who can hold up the best scrums in the world in the top 14 or internationally.
Well, and this is the issue for when you look at I'm just looking at the Tonga's 35-man squad as well, and it's great. I love the fact you're going, who's going to be fullback or on the wing? How are you going to juggle Sir Charles and Izzy?
Izzy!
You got Izzy and Sir Charles in your back three, and then you got Peter Aki and Fekitoa and George Moala as centres.
Jesus Christ!
Aki and Fekitoa or Moala, any of them.
You put the other one on the wing, perhaps, and then I mean, but then there's
just give me the back three options: Izzy, Sir Charles,
Izzy and Sir Charles will be in,
and me,
and then you've got Tauma Falau, who I don't really know.
No.
Finney and Issy. Don't really know.
Did you know when people
Solomoni Kata of Exeter?
He's all right.
Yeah.
Tauma Pia.
In fact, he's got the highest average carries in. Has he moved clubs, actually? Has he gone to the Tigers?
Yeah, I think he has moved. I'm not sure where.
Good question.
And then you've got William Havili, Otamaki Mausia, Patrick Pellegrini. So they've got holes. The depth of the squad is not there. You look in the back row, and they've got some good players, but not Lepetti Tamani.
Tigers. Kata. Kata.
Vea Fafita.
That is class. Is absolutely class.
Adam Coleman, second row.
Ben Tamafuna.
Ben Tamafuna at tight head. They've got some good players, there's no question, and they'll cause some teams trouble, but
they will cause
it's even the same with Samoa. They're not getting out there, Paul.
I don't know. They're
not getting out there, Paul.
Wait and see. By the way,
Fiji, maybe.
Well, look, who's pool are Tonga in?
Tonga is that New Zealand and France's pool?
Just trying to get it up now. It is.
Because England have got Samoa.
England have Samoa.
Fiji have
and
Wales
Chile.
and Australia.
Wales, Australia, Fiji, Georgia, Portugal.
I
It's
wouldn't
Pool
fancy
C.
kicking the ball to Tonga. That's all.
Tonga, they've got to beat Romania. Doable.
Quite possible.
Then they've got to beat Scotland. Then
Ireland and South Africa.
Possible. Then Ireland. Then South Africa.
I'd love Ireland to go down.
Not make the
Their
quarters.
boring kicking game, but they haven't counted on Israel Folau and Sir Charles Pearson running it down their stupid throats. How do you stop that? Very difficult.
Scrum them off the park.
Yeah, it will. Driving Maul, Dan Sheehan rolling off the back of Driving
They're
Maul.
going to lose. They're going to go out in the group stage and be glorious. Absolutely glorious.
Any more? Anything you're reading, listening to, watching?
I have been listening to...
You gave a great podcast recommendation to me and Phil last week. It's really good.
Not quite got round to that one yet.
I've
but
listened to it. It's
you listened to it twice.
Absolutely dynamite. I listened to it 1.5 times. I did.
Yeah, it's well worth it.
It's yeah.
It is.
Actually, the first time I listened to it, it was very late at night in bed, and it sort of freaked me out a little bit.
Don't listen to it late at night. I want to give the name, but I feel like I'll fall off my boat. You know, like just instantly fall off my boat.
Oh yeah, you're cleaning a window on the top story.
If that happened, you'd be a martyr. You'd be a martyr maid.
Yeah, exactly. So
martyr maid.
Do I want to
martyr maid podcast? What?
Do I want to fall off my boat? Do I want to fall off my boat?
Martyr maid podcast. Give it a listen.
Yeah, just go through them and work out which ones you like.
Work out which episode you think we listened to from what's there.
And what else have I listened to this week? I've listened to something else.
I listened to RFK Jr. on Rogan. That was really good.
Yeah, I've not gone on.
I've seen a few clips of that.
It was very good.
Do you know what I've been doing today? This is not interesting, and you can't replicate it because it's just for me. I've been ironing all my clothes and trying them on for Barcelona, and then packing them away. And now I'm completely packed to go away on Thursday, and I can't wait.
Wow.
I cannot wait. When you call me on Sunday, when I dial in.
Oh, we need to talk about that because...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm down in London.
And I'm doing... So next weekend for Charity Rally Round Rupert, I'm doing the Cleveland Way, which is 109 miles across 3 days. I think there's a good chance between about 9 p.m. and midnight I'll be driving back from North Yorkshire on the Sunday.
Yeah, well, there is
might have to do Monday.
There's also no rugby on next weekend.
Yeah.
So
well,
we could get something in the bag, so there's something there on Monday, and then do a proper podcast on Monday.
Here's the thing. Let's talk about it later. Why don't you tell everyone about the Rupert charity?
Yeah, Rally Round Rupert, which is a friend of all of ours, someone we've all played rugby with, an all-round great guy, George Mosey, whose lad was born with spinal muscular atrophy type 1, and I think he was the second child in the UK to benefit from stem cell treatment in I think USA and in Italy, and it's had amazing effects. And there is now the charity that which him and his wonderful wife Charlie have set up to raise money for this condition for other children.
What impact is it? What situation is that is Roop in at the minute? What's the what's his status?
He's having I think he's having mostly physio now, or it might be still some of the stem cell, but it's still paradigm.
It's still a life limiting thing, or a quality of life limiting thing.
It is, but his quality of life and life expectancy is a paradigm shift thanks to this treatment.
Wow.
It really is a phenomenal thing that has happened.
So I've heard the whole story firsthand. Even now, I wouldn't be able to even do 10% justice to it, but I'm pretty sure when the Rally Round Rupert charity is fully up and running, it's worth looking at because the story itself, the treatment and whatnot, and where the prognosis was to where it is now, just incredible.
It is. Thanks to the treatment, it really is a paradigm shift in terms of life expectancy as at the forefront of it. There's some incredible videos. So I'm going to do it next weekend, next Thursday. There's 110 of us currently lined up, all travel to Helmsley, North Yorkshire.
How many do you think will finish it?
Well, it's interesting. It's a tough old walk. It's 109 miles across 3 days. You would normally be expected to do it across about 5 days.
That's a lot,
isn't it?
It'll be pretty attritional. I am genuinely worried because of my ankle. If this was 6 months ago or so, I would be fine doing it, but I've not walked that much.
Channel your inner Kevin Sinfield.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd probably say I'm maybe 60-40 that I'll complete it. I think there's some of our party might be lower than that.
Of our friends, how many will drop out?
I think they will all get through it.
Do you?
Actually, no. I totally take that back. No. I think... So, of our good friends, there's 5 of us doing it. One of the lads today... Have you seen Strava today?
Nope.
One of the lads today, his description of his Strava run today was had to finish due to too much chafing. His run was 3K. 3K into a run.
Did his name rhyme with Bevan? Bevan Pelliot?
It did rhyme with Bevan Pelliot.
Wow.
3K. So, bearing in mind, in 4 days' time, he's got to do more than 20x that distance. And then do it back to back for 3 days. So we've got to do 20x that distance on day 1 and then get up and do it again and again. So I'm not sure he's finishing.
I truly believe
he's going to be in a dark place.
I truly believe.
Get him a vat of Vaseline.
Biggest character flaws is my ability to enjoy Schadenfreude. I'm going to enjoy this weekend so much from afar.
Well, the thing is, and you can and you should, and I think it's only right and proper to invoke the. Oh, sorry. We'll tell Rupert that you.
Yeah, he's absolutely right.
Tell Rupert that you had a hurty groin.
Yeah.
quite rightly.
It was sore.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what chafing is. It's sore.
So I am in the group, and everyone who's in a WhatsApp group, everyone who's in that is doing a fantastic thing, and we've already raised. I think we're already over £50,000.
Wow.
Target is £100,000. I will share. Definitely once I've got through it, if I get through it, I will share some stuff on Twitter because it really is one of the most worthwhile causes.
Yeah.
But the astonishing amount of discussion around blister plasters, taping your feet, compete, like how do you get through it?
I don't even think I'd bother with that. I mean, I'm sure I just show up and walk.
That is kind of what my approach. Really.
Looking after your feet, like ask a military man. That's like,
the thing is, Tim. I am the classic free rider. If I'm walking with 100 people who are conscientious, someone will have plasters.
Well, someone shared a. They've packed up their kit, much like you for your Barcelona. They've packed up their kit and they shared a picture of all the stash that they're taking with them. There was no fewer than 11 individual separate packs of Compede, many of which have 10 plasters in them. So they've got approaching 100 Compede plasters for themselves.
So just
I don't know. That's like if you got blisters on 80% of you. You've got like 8.
That's over an hour and a half worth of plaster changes.
Yeah, that's like 3 per toe per day.
Yes.
Who are all these psychopaths?
My one tip would be, and this was from doing a marathon with like only a few weeks training, an impulse.
Humble brag. What a humble brag.
No. I did it, and I was like, well, bollocks. And someone said, Diorolite.
That's a good shout.
Sachet. I had a couple of sachets of Diorolite. And
for hydration,
when I had
really
done some
important.
long runs trying to sort of prepare my body for it a bit, the one thing that scared the crap out of me was I went for a long run and I just seized up and I couldn't walk the next day.
If you're not used to it.
And it was like the electrolytes and the salt. So Diorolite, I had a couple of sachets of those and I felt I was up and about the next day, felt absolutely fine.
Okay, that's good. So what I did over January is I don't believe in any of this. Do you know when you see runners out and they just look like idiots? They've got cagoule on and special running shoes.
Yeah, how long? The one that gets me is the people that carry the water bottles.
They carry the water.
How unless they're running an extreme distance.
Yeah. You need to be going more than 2 hours to actually really need just hydrate before.
Exactly.
And if you're more than 2 hours, you need definitely more than an hour and a half. You need some water.
They've got the leg skins on. You know, they've got everything for running, and they're running at about an 8 mile a minute pace, right? So around January, I started...
8 mile a minute pace is some pace.
That's decent for a long run.
8 mile a minute.
8 mile a minute.
8 miles.
8 mile a minute is...
Yeah, it's very fast. Yeah,
I have the same issue with cyclists as well.
Yeah.
Like, you're not in the Tour de France.
So-
Come on.
So
8 mile a minute is 64 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, that's very fast. So during January, when it was
Wait.
really, really cold...
Sorry, I got that totally wrong. It's
8
420 miles an hour. No, 480 miles an hour.
Basically
Sorry.
like an RAF.
Sorry, yeah.
Like an RAF Typhoon. So-
Yeah, something like that. It's
Brilliant.
fighter jet type speed.
So I went for a run, and I took my keys with me, left my wallet at home, left my phone at home, so I have the chance to sort of just stop and look at my phone. I thought I'll just go running. So all I've got is my Strava thing. I've got a green cotton t-shirt, literally the shorts that I'm in now, and some CrossFit trainers, and off I went. So I'm going to watch like 5k. Okay, well if I run 5k, when I run back it'll be 10k. Oh, 7k, run 14k. I'll just get to say 10k, and then I have to go the 10k back, and that'll be fine. And then all of a sudden I started getting cold. I've never been cold running in my life. But I thought, actually, I have been out here for quite a long time now. And I thought, I'll just stop. I thought, you can't stop. If I stop, that's like a death sentence.
Yeah.
And I've got no one's phone.
Yeah, you'll cool down really quickly. You'll be wet, so the moisture
and it's sort of
take all the heat away from you even more.
Yeah, so it's sort of like snow. And I started to get really worried. So I spun around on, what was that on? I think I was on like 8.5k. So I spun around 8.5k. I was like, I've got to get back, because this is like the start of an episode of Casualty. And it would be one of those things like, do you know when you find those climbers that go up Snowdon in nothing but plimsolls, and unsurprisingly, in the middle of winter, they die?
Yeah.
It's like, this is going to be it, but in urban Manchester. Like, the thing which I said was most pathetic in the world, running, is the thing which is going to kill me. So, like, the last 5k, I absolutely went for it. It's like, I can't be found dead on the fucking side. Like, there is no way. I was freezing. I couldn't feel my hands. I had a little t-shirt on, it is -2.
I love to write your obituary if you died in like a pathetic way like that.
Dying doing what he hated.
Yeah, I'd be searching through all of your our WhatsApp messages, the enormous history where you've called runners idiots, losers,
skinny fat.
Yeah.
Jamie died trying to get skinny fat.
I was glad you clarified that this wasn't a recent run, because I was thinking, what are you doing?
Is it boiling?
This is gonna, it was boiling, and it's gonna wreck your.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna wreck your lifting. Running and lifting don't go. They don't go.
Just don't do it. Don't do it.
No.
Right, I think we must be done.
We
must be
definitely done.
Right, support us, patreon.com/EggChasers. Let the boys play.
We'll play.
Sweet.